What's poppin', Acolytes? It's me, MT, and welcome back to the Heavy Spoiler Show, gang! This is going to be a breakdown of episode 5 of The Acolyte, so let's just get into it. Also, naturally, heavy spoilers ahead for the episode, so if you haven't seen the beautiful brutality of this newest installment, you're gonna want to pause this video, watch it, shit your pants at the power of the dark side, and then come back here and hang out with me, alright? Okay, so let's start off with a quick summary of the episode. Everybody is dead, and Qimir did all of the deading. Qimir pushed Saul to the edge, and now all Saul's friends are dead, including Jedi Guardian Knight Eord Fandar and Saul's beloved Padawan, Jeki Lon, leaving Saul as the sole survivor of an absolutely insane clashing of blades from an unbelievably powerful dark side user. When Osha wakes up at the start of the episode after being flung away by Qimir at the end of last episode, she witnesses Qimir easily handling the might of an entire squad of Jedi at once. But what is particularly remarkable about Qimir's fighting style in this episode is how he is somehow able to completely disable the lightsabers of the Jedi, either by blocking lightsaber strikes with his arm or by smashing his helmet into a lightsaber itself. But the question remains, how the hell did Qimir even do that shit? Is Qimir some type of indestructible Superman that has the power to deactivate lightsabers with some sort of magic power? Well, the good news is, no, Qimir's physical form is just as vulnerable to getting sliced and diced by lightsabers, just like everybody else's is. The reason why Qimir is likely able to deactivate the lightsabers of all of the Jedi in this episode is through a special type of metal that Qimir appears to have applied on his helmet as well as upon his arms. And it's a special metal in the Star Wars universe called cortosis, making its first appearance in the 1998 Legends novel I, Jedi, and reappearing for the first time in the current Star Wars canon in the 2014 Star Wars novel A New Dawn. Cortosis was a super energy absorptive metal that was able to soak in blaster fire and even redirect heat, like sort of akin to vibranium in a weird way. And because of this, Cortosis's main impressive feat is of course its ability to cause a lightsaber blade to temporarily glitch the hell out. And if you've ever read the Dr. Aphra comic book series, you are likely familiar with cortosis already, as in issues 24 and 25 of those comics, Dr. Aphra comes across a blade made out of cortosis alloy called the Null Blade, and would demonstrate the power of the cortosis of that blade herself by using a lightsaber in her possession on that blade, only for her lightsaber's blade to temporarily short out, much like the Jedi's lightsabers did in this episode. Cortosis metal is incredibly rare, and as of now, the only two planets in the Star Wars galaxy that we know of that produce cortosis are the planets Mokivj and Dinzo. In Timothy Zahn's 2018 novel Thrawn Alliances, we learn that the Sith Count Dooku was greatly interested in acquiring some cortosis metal for himself when he learned how useful cortosis metal is against lightsabers, and would eventually set up mining operations on the planet Mokivj. Mining operations that were brought to an abrupt halt when Anakin Skywalker himself showed up to destroy those cortosis mines. But anyways, with cortosis metal being a blackish brownish hue, much like Qimir's mask, it seems highly likely that Qimir has wisely made his helmet battle ready with that special rock, even somehow coating some cortosis dust onto his arms in order to use his arms to deactivate the Jedi's lightsabers as well. In fact, his entire armor appears to be coated in the damn thing, which is why Osha's surprise stun blast appeared to have no effect on him, and we can see the absorptive properties of cortosis metal in full effect with the glowing blue crack that Qimir receives as a result of a lightsaber that he bashed against his helmet to deactivate. Qimir's use of a special planetary resource in order to kill Jedi is very much in line with the very little that we know of Qimir at this point in the series, as it was Qimir who would be the one that Mae would go to in order to fashion a poison for her using the leaves of a bunta tree, establishing that Qimir is a man who has his eyes on the resources of other planets and how those resources could be used for his own gain and self-preservation, qualities that would also be found in the scientifically inclined Darth Sidious throughout his reign as Empire of the Galaxy, because that's pretty much all Palpatine did while he was in power. Look for valuable resources on different planets and then use those resources to make deadly weapons. And like I brought up before in a previous Acolyte breakdown, the Acolyte's place in the Star Wars timeline is just right for Palpatine's former master Darth Plagueis the Wise to have been alive and kicking, and it would be absolutely crazy if the mysterious and wise Qimir was actually a future Darth Plagueis in the making. However, one interesting thing to note about Qimir's mask is how it appears to be able to block a Jedi from reading the wearer's thoughts, almost like how Magneto's helmet shields him from Professor Xavier's nosy mind-reading powers. So there's a possibility here that cortosis metal even possesses the ability to absorb Force influence as well. However, there is also the possibility that a Jedi just needs to see the face of their target in order for mind reading to happen, but that latter possibility seems kind of stupid if so. But the question still remains, how did Qimir become so powerful in the Force anyway? I mean, for someone to effortlessly be able to force push a squad of multiple Jedi, they've got to have a shitload of midichlorians swimming around their blood system, making them an incredibly strong versions in the Force. And what remains to be seen, however, is just how this Force user came to acquire such Force affinity and power. Because usually, as far as we've seen in Star Wars anyway, incredibly strong vergences in the Force usually occur as a result of some sort of unnatural dark-sided science. For example, Anakin Skywalker was born as a result of Palpatine's dark side Force magic meddling with Shmi Skywalker's womb, and we see that in the pages of Darth Vader number 25. And this being the case, all of Anakin's descendants were also gifted a high midichlorian count thanks to Anakin's genetics. And of course, Palpatine's granddaughter Rey was created through the unnatural dark side science of cloning and midichlorian manipulation. Dark sciences that have been teased in Moff Gideon's midichlorian experimentations in The Mandalorian, as well as Dr. Hemlock's midichlorian research for Palpatine in the Bad Batch series. So I am extremely curious to find out whether or not this mysterious person was naturally born with these midichlorians, or if they've been enhanced through the dark side means in some way, possibly through the means of witchcraft, which I heavily expect Qimir to be involved in for a number of reasons. Firstly, during his conversation with Saul later on in the episode, Qimir declares that his true goal is freedom from the Jedi's oppressive policing of the other non-Jedi Force cults in the galaxy, something that Mother Anastasia and Coral also deeply wanted for their coven. And another clue that may point to Qimir's potential connection with Mother Anastasia's coven is specifically how Qimir would choose to kill Jecki in this episode, electing to not just kill her with a single piercing of his blade, but with three holes in triangle formation. And if you recall my breakdown of episode 3 of this series, I remark how that entire coven seems to be deeply themed around triangles, with triangles being present on their technology, their wardrobes, monuments, and even influencing the shape of Osha's sketchbook as a child. That triangular execution style seems to point to Qimir potentially being trained by a surviving witch of Mother Anastasia's coven, with Mother Coral likely being Qimir's master at one point in his life in my opinion, because we do not see Mother Coral's body amongst those Zed witches in episode 3. But anyways, while Qimir battles with the Jedi, Saul orders Yor to take Osha to safety. Meanwhile, at the same time, Mae is also trying to make her escape from being brutally assassinated by her master, which then causes her to unfortunately run into Jecki, who is extremely focused on bringing Mae in for the murders of Master Indara, Torben, Kelnaka, and the fire that killed the witches of Brendok. And after a fierce battle, Jecki manages to subdue Mae in handcuffs. Then while Saul is having his battle with the masked man, Saul asks him why he chooses to hide his true face to his pupil, causing Qimir to ask Saul why he's done the same with his pupils, implying that Saul has been hiding a deep dark secret from the past that likely reflects Saul's dark side, a dark side that Saul might have great shame of. And then while Yord is taking Osha away to safety like he was ordered, Yord expresses his fear of Qimir's power when he remarks that Qimir doesn't follow the rules of combat and there's no method to his movements, before confessing that Qimir appears to have a power to get into your head and stay there, with that statement very much feeling much akin to how fear can get into a person's head and stay there as well. Yord knows that this new adversary is no joke whatsoever, and he is extremely afraid of him, with that fear somehow being something Qimir can somehow tap into during his fights with the Jedi. However, in my opinion, what's most important during this moment is how Osha responds to Yord's statement, remarking about how her mother had the power to do the same thing, recalling how Mother Anastasia briefly possessed Torben as a show of strength when the Jedi came for the girls 16 years prior. So it seems like the show is purposely trying to equate Qimir's menacing ability to get stuck in your mind with that dark side witch power of mind control, definitely linking Qimir with Osha and Mae's coven in my opinion. But eventually, try as Mae might, Mae eventually comes face to face with her master, after that master would best Jecki and slash one of her green lightsabers that she was using to defend herself from his attacks. Qimir then says that Mae has always been weak before trying trying to murder her to keep his identity and presence a secret. And thanks to Mae's incredibly strong Force connection with her sister, Osha is able to sense Mae's fear of her master's intentions and convinces Yord to make the fatal decision of turning back to help Sol and the others, with Osha using light to get a pack of Umbra Moths to follow her back to the action. And in the meantime, Sol and Jeki come to Mae's rescue and defend her from a Qimir whose primary focus is killing her. Like, he's not really concerned about fighting the Jedi, he wants Mae dead first and foremost. And unfortunately for Daphne Keen's Jeki, it appears that her rage at Qimir would get the best of her, with Jeki even screaming at him as she wildly swings her saber right before Qimir would use that blind rage to find an opening to kill her. 3 openings in fact, as Qimir would of course poke 3 holes in her after taking his split saber apart to make 2 separate lightsabers, something that the Jedi Cal Kestis famously does in the Fallen Order franchise of video games. And to add insult to injury, Qimir would refer to Jeki as an it when Sol called out Jeki's name at her death, showing just how much Qimir doesn't value Jedi as being worthy of life at all. And then when Qimir suddenly grabs Mae and puts his saber to her head, Sol's fear for Mae's safety causes him to attack Qimir while Qimir's back was turned, something that Jedi are not supposed to do, which then causes Qimir to call out Sol's hypocritical actions, much like Qimir's former acolyte Mae would do during her fight with Master Indara. And when Sol demands to know what Qimir is, Qimir responds by saying that he has no name, but a Jedi like Sol might call him a Sith, which is extremely interesting because I'm not sure if that statement officially confirms Qimir as a Sith or not. While it seems like it very well could, Qimir is merely saying that a Jedi might want to label him as a Sith, but that doesn't necessarily mean he is just yet. That just might be Qimir trying to make a point of the Jedi trying to label anything that they don't understand as their main enemy, the Sith. Qimir then of course continues by stating his main mission statement. A mission statement, like I said before, is shared by that of Mother Anasea's cult. Freedom of religion. Freedom to practice his use of the Force however he wants without the Jedi telling him how to wield it and whether or not he gets to pass on what he's learned to the next generation in order to found his own cult. Then Qimir declares that all he wants is an acolyte, and because Mae failed as his acolyte to be by betraying him, she and everybody on Kofar has to die in order for him to live in peace, because the Jedi say that people like Qimir are not allowed to exist out of fear of them. So Qimir is saying that he's essentially the beast that the Jedi made him to be, because he has no choice. Qimir is merely part of an oppressed group looking to practice the Force in his own way, much like how the pilgrims who left on the Mayflower for the New World sought freedom from religious persecution from the Church of England way back in the day. But while they're talking, Yord uses the Force to grab Qimir's helmet before Qimir would then grab Yord's head in return and snap that boy's neck. A death that would cause Sol to fully embrace his dark-sided rage and commence to beat the ever-living shit out of Qimir, before raising and igniting his lightsaber to finish off an unarmed Qimir, all while Qimir smiles. I love this part of Manny Jacinto's performance so much because it is very much a Sith-type thing to do. Much like Palpatine wanted Luke and Rey to strike him down in anger, Qimir seems to want the same thing for himself in a way, because that's how you kill a Jedi without a weapon. You make them act in a way that a Jedi should never act to expose their hypocrisy. Because if you could expose the Jedi as a whole as hypocrites, then the Jedi's overall dream of galactic peace through their teachings will be exposed as a lie as well.
So that was a fucking lie.
And while Sol has his lightsaber at Qimir's neck, Qimir asks Osha if she still trusts Sol after everything that he's done to her, implying something incredibly cruel that Sol might have done on Brendok to contribute to the Coven slaughter 16 years prior. This then of course causes Sol to accuse Qimir of having his mind warped by darkness, which Qimir replies by saying that he is the only one out of the both of them that has actually accepted his dark side, before asking Sol what he's done with his darker side. This statement is extremely powerful here because it shows one of the biggest flaws of the Jedi in general, their outright rejection of their dark side completely. The Jedi fear the dark side so much that they refuse to acknowledge it within their own selves, choosing to bury it deep down in layers of self-righteousness rather than confront it head-on. So Qimir calling out Sol for denying the existence of his dark side was kind of Qimir's way of telling Sol that he's just a hypocrite who is blind to how his dark-sided fear rules his actions without him knowing, a flaw that Qimir has been poking at this entire time through his antagonistic fighting style. Then right before their battle could continue, Osha would enact her Umbra Moth plan by sticking a brightly lit pip onto Qimir's back, causing him to be lifted away by these flying, disgusting bugs. However, before Sol could explain to Osha why Qimir said that she should not trust him, Mae would then stun Sol, causing the twins to have their first true conversation in 16 years as the sun rises. Mae, of course, blames the Jedi for invading the Coven, while Osha claims that, from her perspective, it was Mae who started the fire and killed everyone. This then causes Mae to pull a quote directly from Anakin in Revenge of the Sith when she says that the Jedi turned Osha against her with brainwashing, just like Anakin accused Obi-Wan of turning Padme against him. Then after the two share a hug, Osha then tries to arrest Mae for what she's done, which leads Mae to use the Force against her sister, knocking Osha out, just like Mother Anastasia trained the both of them to do when they were younger, with Mae even remarking how Osha always sucked at blocking when they were little too, which is true, as in episode 3 we saw a little Osha hiding behind her sister during that lesson. Then after Mae knocks her sister out, she uses a lightsaber to cut her hair just like Osha's before switching clothes with her. Then while pretending to be Osha, she wakes up Sol and the two of them head to Sol's ship. And while this is happening, Qimir of course frees himself from getting bug-napped right before Basil, the true MVP of the episode, retrieves Pip's head before tracking Mae to Sol's ship. Then the episode of course ends with Qimir approaching Osha's body, saying the words, "What extraordinary beings we are. Even in the revelation of our triumph, you see the depth of our despair," before covering Osha with a blanket. With this line possibly being Qimir reflecting on how Osha was compassionate towards him and was able to see the depths of his own pain and despair even after he slaughtered all those Jedi, because Osha could have easily let Sol kill him, but she stopped him from doing so, a gesture that might have given Qimir a bit of compassion towards Osha as well. However, there is of course very likely selfish motivations behind Qimir's keeping Osha alive as well, because you have to remember what Qimir said to Mae in episode 2 when she had trouble with killing Torben. He told her to find Torben's weakness because everyone has a weakness, and for Qimir's new enemy Mae, Osha is her biggest weakness of all. So it seems like Qimir's preservation of Osha at the end of this episode could be directly tied to his desire to bait Mae back to him so he can kill her and leave no loose ends, but only time will tell. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this breakdown of episode 5 of The Acolyte. And yes, I am truly enjoying this show. No one's paying me to say so. I love this show so much, mostly because it is introducing some really, really intriguing stuff about the Force that I cannot wait to learn more about by the season's end. But anyways, you can follow me at Mastertainment on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, wherever I am on the internet, especially on the Guardians of the Galaxy podcast here on YouTube. Just search for Guardians of the Galaxy. But most importantly, follow Heavy Spoilers here on YouTube. And when you do, make sure you hit that notification bell so you can get notifications for every time we upload a video. But yes, you guys are amazing. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.